We are taking off to Key West tomorrow by land in the van, but the van is kind of a disaster because we haven't really used it at all. So just gonna clean her up before we go. In episode 11, Momski and I engage super tourist mode. Dan and the cats come too. We spend 2 days visiting with the roosters and 6-toed cats of Key West, then go on without the boys for 3 days of gators in the Everglades and mojitos in Miami.
I'm Dan.
We're in the ocean.
I'm Zoo.
Under the power of wind.
And these are our boys.
Louie and Pepe.
You fell in the water. In October 2021, we moved out of our van.
And into a sailboat.
But before we can see the world,
we've got to clean her up.
It's looking a lot better.
Fix her up.
And learn to sail and navigate.
So we have a big year ahead.
Full of challenges, opportunities, adventures, and surprises.
And that's just the beginning. Our 5-day rendezvous across South Florida started with a drive across the 42 bridges that connect Key West to the rest of the state. Upon arrival, we were quickly introduced to the locals. These so-called gypsy chickens, which are protected and roam wherever they please, are the descendants of birds brought over from Cuba and the Caribbean for both food and cockfighting, which became illegal in Florida in the mid-1980s.
Watch out crossing the road.
The island of Key West itself has a total land area of just 8 square miles and was relatively isolated until the Overseas Railroad connected it to mainland Florida in 1912. After strolling up and down the streets for a few hours, it's safe to say no two homes in Key West are the same. And many of the older homes are still standing because they were built by carpenters who were also shipbuilders, which made them really good at building homes that could withstand powerful storms.
Get in there, dude. Come on, dude. Go to safety.
Cutting right through the middle of these historic neighborhoods is Duval Street. It's like Bourbon Street in New Orleans, but with tropical chickens, which undoubtedly make it the better spot for a drink. Or 20. Back to van life. They remember. It's been a minute since we've done this.
Oh yeah. Hey, look at the reward, the fruits of our patience.
Still works like a charm.
It's hard to get much better than this, folks. Oh, beach boys in the background, palm trees. Got my honey dip, morning coffee in a hot tub at a KOA. Ironically, in all this time, we've never stayed at a KOA because they're wildly expensive for like a pavement parking spot and a plug-in, which we don't need. But fun fact, if you're thinking of visiting Key West, it's packed, it's expensive. There is really no good van stealth camping anywhere. So this is one of the options that we went for. It's working out just fine. California.
After breakfast at a cafe/yoga studio, Momski and I headed back into the heart of Key West for a tour of a house that had once belonged to one of the city's most well-known residents, so that we could pet the 6-toed descendants of his cat.
They're so spoiled. They won't drink out of the regular cat water bowls that have around.
Writer Ernest Hemingway lived in the home on Whitehead and Olivia Streets through most of the 1930s. It's where he wrote some of his most famous works. And perhaps most importantly, it's where he came to own Snow White, the original Hemingway polydactyl cat.
I'm Mary Jane, and for about the next 20 minutes, I'm going to take you around the place and tell you some stories. First, I just want to mention that photography is allowed in the house, but making a video of the tour is not.
Which is A-okay because, let's face it, the cats are definitely the main attraction here. The museum is now home to some 60 polydactyl cats. Unlike normal cats, which have 5 toe beans in the front and 4 toe beans in the back, polydactyls have 6 toe beans on their front feet and occasionally end up with extras on their back ones as well.
Lifelike, isn't it? Yeah, the big boy that was asleep on the table, this is his family. That's his girlfriend, Billie Holiday, and one of his daughters, Daisy Buchanan.
If you want to see these guys, or, see the writing studio of a literary genius, bring cash, because that's all the museum takes. And those tours you can't record, those are free. A trip to Key West wouldn't be complete without a visit to the beach. This one came with a fort named after President Zachary Taylor. The fort predates the Civil War and houses the largest cache of Civil War armament in the world. After getting some sand between our toes, we headed north to Miami, where we scarfed down some dinner and got ready to go gator spotting in the Everglades. So we just dropped Lala off at the dog sitter. She's not entirely sure about the whole thing.
She knows something's not right.
She's like, something's fishy about this situation. And in the meantime, my mom and I are going to go take a drive through the Everglades and then go kayak for a few hours. And then we'll be back in Miami. Turns out gator spotting isn't very hard when it's wintertime and there's 200,000 of them. We ended up seeing a couple dozen alligators sunning themselves up and down Loop Road, a scenic drive that juts off Highway 41 and into the Big Cypress National Preserve. After stopping at least 500,000 times to take in the flora and fauna along this small stretch of the 1.5 million acres that make up the Everglades, we barely made it on time for a kayak tour in Everglades City.
Okay, that should be good. Okay.
We signed up for a group tour, but the group ended up being Momski and me and our guide Dave, who spent a chunk of his life as a park ranger in the Missouri Ozarks. So we had a lot to talk about.
Watch your head.
Now, so I've got a couple of guide sheets for you. I want you to take those. And Ava, you're going to be our wildlife biologist, okay? So you've got to help us identify everything.
That makes me nervous is if I'm accidentally going into some bushes that may have an alligator.
Yeah, that would have been a great idea though.
After managing not to run the kayak into any alligators, we made it to the largest mangrove ecosystem in the Western Hemisphere.
We're in the mangrove, guys. So what we're going to do here is take our paddle apart.
Yeah.
Because we don't have room
Okay.
for a great big paddle.
Okay.
And we're going to move through the mangroves.
Okay.
Now you can use a paddle or you can just grab the branches and pull yourself forward.
Okay.
Yeah, the mangroves are protected. We can't cut them,
Okay.
but we can grab them and use them. System holds everything in place.
Okay.
So that's
why they're so important. Without them, everything would just wash into the ocean.
No więc płyniemy tutaj przez to coś, co jest niezwykłe. Musimy się wyminąć tutaj, trafik się nam robi. Yeah, we just let you go, guys.
Yeah, we'll let you go by.
So we're going that way.
Well, no, actually, we're gonna turn around.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
We're gonna turn
Gotcha,
around and start heading back.
Okay.
If we could go all the way to the ocean down here.
Wow, that's a
But we'd get there about 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
The dog would be furious.
The dog would be
the dog
furious.
sitter will be furious.
The dog sitter
would be
furious.
That's the thing.
In the interest of both urban development and farming, the federal government has been draining fresh water out of the Everglades and into the ocean since the mid-1800s. Today, less than half of the historic Everglades remains, and even that portion has been entirely disrupted by a system of canals and levees that stretch from Orlando to Florida Bay and dump pollution into the ecosystem.
So I think there's a gator right over there on the edge of that brush. I can see his back. Right here.
No, it's right there.
Yeah.
That's a
And
lot.
this tree, you want to get a picture here because this is probably the most picturesque place in the whole swamp.
It wasn't until 1994 that the state of Florida passed the Everglades Forever Act, calling for protection and restoration.
Nice little gator laying down here at the bottom of this.
Yes.
Oh, I see it, yeah. Little dude.
Six years later, the federal government approved the Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan that provides the framework, as well as billions of dollars in funding, to recreate as much of the original timing and flow of the water to and from the Everglades as possible. That makes it the largest hydrologic restoration project ever undertaken in the U.S., and it's still unlikely to return this ecosystem to the way it functioned before we nearly destroyed it.
And I can pull it a little bit further up if you, don't want to get your shoes wet.
Oh, it's all good.
You think? Yeah, those are pretty good shoes. Let me pull you up a little bit.
Hold on, let me just get out.
Yep, you bet.
Oh.
Good, good deal. Let me pull you up a little bit.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Perfect.
Okay, come on out.
Since we had a little bit of time to spare, we made one more pit stop before heading back to the city. Momski had just officially retired from the U.S. Postal Service, so we really couldn't pass this one up. We're at the smallest post office in the United States. It was a former irrigation pipe shed. But here it is. It's got its own hours. Closed on holidays. We then stuffed ourselves full of vegan Asian fusion delights and went to bed because we weren't done with the Everglades just yet. The following morning, we trekked out to the Broward County rest area along Highway 75 to do the most touristy thing of them all.
That's the biggest I've seen in a couple of weeks. The average size you typically come across out here is between 5 and 6 feet in length. There's actually so many alligators in the Everglades that they kill each other off, meaning that they grow very slow. They fight over territory and breeding rights. Guys, we're going to be going nice and slow for a while. If you do want to stand up to get a better look at something or take a picture, feel free. Just keep your eyes on the edge of the banks. It's going to be the best place to look for wildlife. You may see a turtle, you might see a gator or a frog or a snake or some birds. There's a lot of fish in the water, as you can see some popping around us already. Fish are a major food source for almost every single animal out here. Okay, so they have to lay in the sun for 12 hours just to charge up about 15 minutes worth of hard press energy. Wow. So if they don't have much to work with, they just won't move. It also allows them, slowing their heart rate down like that, to hold their breath for so long. It's longer than any air-breathing animal in the world. It's 24 hours. See the game trail moving through the birds back here? Uh-huh. It's from a black bear. We've seen him a couple times. He's been walking in and out lately. We see him usually really early in the morning.
A bear?
Wow. We do have a lot of mammals that live out here. There's white-tailed deer, there's black bear, there's wild boar, foxes, coyotes, bobcats, panthers. Anywhere that you see a thick clump of trees like this, eventually there'll be some dry ground in there. There are millions of small islands called hammocks.
Oh, there's a turtle down there.
Oh yeah, on the rock there. There's literally thousands and thousands of miles of canal systems in South Florida, and it was all to pull water out of the land. So even the city, if you looked at it on the map, the whole city is blocked by a levee system. Yeah, keeping water out.
Thomas later told us he got his first airboat at the age of 7 and can navigate thousands of square miles of the river of grass at night.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anybody's home. Is anybody home? Thank you.
He's like posing.
He's moving his nostrils now. Do you see?
Mm-hmm. No, no.
Breathing a little bit. Okay, we'll be out of your hair in a second.
Looking at me.
It was so good. That was so good, yeah. The guy
What did you
was
like
cool.
about it?
The guy was cool. The guy was exactly looking how he's supposed to be looking. The way he was talking, that was the way he was talking. He can see the stuff we couldn't see because, you know, he knows how to look for. And that was like when he was like those things. But that was so cool. And the whole swamp is just like, you know, you think about swamp as something like muddy and smelly and kind of, and this is just different swamp.
Nice. Totally
Very
different than
nice.
kayaking, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
kayaking was nice too.
Yeah, it was. Kayaking was nice too. Absolutely.
And we saw some different landscapes.
Yeah. But
Like
this
today's landscape was very
this
different
last
from.
alligator we saw, I mean, so you can kind of touch him, really, that guy.
Probably
So
shouldn't
cool.
touch him though.
Well, shouldn't, but it was possible to touch him, really.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. And there was no mosquitoes, no hot, no sweating, no nothing. So I'm good. I'm good.
Our next stop was Little Havana, the heart of Miami's Cuban diaspora. The neighborhood began to transform into what it is today in the 1960s, as refugees fled to Florida following the Cuban Revolution that propelled the Castro regime to power. Calle Ocho is the major commercial and cultural corridor in the neighborhood. It's where you'll find the Ball and Chain Bar, which opened as a saloon in 1935 and has existed in some form since then. The Ball and Chain Trio, which plays there from noon to 6 every day, is who's providing the music you're listening to right now. Calle Ocho is also home to Domino Park, where neighbors over the age of 50 can spend the day doing just that, partaking in Cuba's national pastime with friends. Then there's the Cuban Walk of Fame and Cuban Memorial Boulevard, which pays tribute to Cuban soldiers who fought in the 1961 Bay of Pigs invasion and the Cuban War of Independence. There's also coffee, restaurants, cigar shops, places to get freshly squeezed sugarcane juice, and lots of artwork celebrating Cuba and its people. The Ball and Chain is definitely a tourist destination, but they make a mean mojito, which originates from Havana, and you won't hear us complaining about live music in the middle of the day on a Thursday. With one night left in Miami before we headed back to the Fort Pierce Marina the next day, we finally got around to exploring a little bit of South Beach.
We're taking a walk through Miami's Art Deco district. We're on Ocean Drive right now, which is packed with all these small Art Deco hotels that were saved and turned into a tourist attraction. I highly recommend coming out to check out Ocean Drive at night to see all the hotels lit up, and during the day when you can really see how colorful the buildings are. The Art Deco district is made up of more than 800 buildings built in the area between 1923 and 1943, making it the largest concentration of Art Deco buildings in the country. After falling into major disrepair, most of it would have been razed in the 1970s, had it not been for Barbara Bayer Capitman and the Miami Design Preservation League she founded. You'll find all the features of Art Deco architecture in just a few blocks. Bright and pastel colors, flora and fauna motifs, porthole windows, curved parapets, and terrazzo accents. This Art Deco architecture is really exciting. Really great. If you've made it this far, you've probably noticed that Momski and I are not hang out at the beach people if there's stuff to see. But we did make it there eventually, and it's where we witnessed the Miami Miracle.
Not? Płyniemy, płyniemy! Oh my gosh, look at you go! Look at you go!
Oh my God. That's never something I thought I'd see.
After a lifetime of avoiding any situation where water got as far as touching her belly, Lala finally took the plunge at Hobie Island Beach Park, which is one of the few places that allows dogs. We don't know if it was the warm, clear water, the gentle waves, or if it'll ever happen again. But just look at that form.
Not the most graceful swimmer. So Miami by land is definitely fun and all, but I can't wait to be doing that with Dan and the Never Monday.